What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my channel. My name's Chris. This is part 8. Is it? I gotta check. Yes, part 8 of my guitar build. And you can see where I'm at so far. I'm sanding the sides down so that I can get the binding done next. So in order to do that, I had to make this clamp here. I'm calling it a guitar body clamp, or it's kind of like a poor man's moccasin vise. So if you want to see how I made it, there is a video for that. There will be a link in the corner here, or at the end of the video, or in the description. Plus, if you watch the video, just know there's a second video about this clamp, and it's adding these little pieces here. So that helps take out some of the, what I called wonkiness of the clamp when I was trying to clamp the guitar down. So watch both videos if you want to see how I made this, this vise. So I'm going to finish sanding. So you saw me using my new Elevate Lutherie rolling pin sander. That thing's pretty awesome. I've already got this part right here at the waist pretty much even with the side. It was sticking out just a little bit. So I'm going to go over the whole guitar with that rolling pin sander, and that's 80 grit, and it's the only grit I have for that thing. So after I get the rough sanding down all the way around, I'm going to go over the whole guitar all around the sides with finer sandpaper, and kind of work up the grits a little bit so that I can be ready to add the binding, which I'm really scared about. So anyway, let me finish sanding and I'll come back to you. This mask ain't very good to my beard. Alright, so I've got the sides sanded. So now what I've got here is the binding, and this is flame maple. I've got 6 pieces of binding. Only need 4, but they recommended you buy 2 extras just in case. So if I break 1, it's okay. If I break 2, it's okay. But if I break 3, I gotta order some more, and I'll be down for a little while waiting on those to come in. So what I have here is my bending iron, and I ordered these 2 little, I don't even know what they're called, collar thing. What they do is they go around here, around the bending iron, and I'll tighten them up here in a second. But what that does is it helps me to keep, when I'm bending the binding, to keep them straight. So I'll lock this, tied up against the binding. So that way I'm not like bending it at an angle, because it's going to have to be perfectly straight so that it fits around the guitar. So I don't know if this is really necessary, but I went ahead and got them just for insurance, just to make sure I don't screw something up. So let me tighten these up, get this thing heated up, and then we'll get to binding. All right, we'll get to bending the binding. So let me get this one done and I'll come back to you. Alright, so I've got this one, I've got the lower bout bent, and I'm just working around the waist here. So this is a really sharp curve. I almost messed up. It just started to have a little crack right here the first time I pushed on it. But I've been taking it easy. I don't see any visible sign of a crack on the outside, so I think if I'm careful, this part will actually get glued to the guitar. But I just gotta take it real slow. So I'm just working my way around this way, and then I'll finish the upper bout. Alright, well, I just don't think I could do this anymore. This one has just started to crack, and the waist curve is right there. I've got to get that bent more, but it just keeps opening up because it's already cracked. So it looks like I need to start all over on another piece. I'll let you know how that goes. Decided to start on the waist first. I barely even started and it's already cracked. So 2 pieces down. If I do one more like this, then I gotta stop and order some more. This is going to be interesting, to say the least. 3rd piece. I wasn't even pulling that hard. I mean, I was going just as slow as the first piece, but it cracked right there. I don't know. I'm already at the point where I have to buy a new binding already. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna practice on the last 3 pieces just to see if I can at least get one, but I got some thinking to do. I'll catch back up with you. 4 pieces down. I don't know if this is going to work, at least using this bending iron. So I'm rolling some things in my head about that LMI bending jig, the bending machine, I mean. So I don't know. This is very frustrating. I ain't got time to just be doing this. I mean, I spent all morning getting set up, getting the bending iron done, hot, working. I spent probably 30 minutes on that first piece until it broke. I ain't got time to do this every day like this, every time I set up for this. I just don't have the years of experience that I need to make this work, nor do I have the patience. I just don't have the time to have the patience. I've only got limited time to work on this, and this ain't working. Good grief. Alright, so I was going to wait to get this during my second guitar build, but I decided to bite the bullet and go ahead and get it now, since I had so much trouble with the binding breaking on the trying to use the bending iron. I don't want to keep on having to do that. Got this bending machine here, so I'll be able to use this for the binding on this one and then for the sides on every other guitar I build. And I'm looking forward to getting this thing set up. So let me go ahead and do that. Oh, and also I got some replacement binding. 4 more pieces of flame maple to replace the ones I broke. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this is going to go well. So I got to get this thing set up, and then when I'm ready to go with the bending, I'll come back to you. But here I am the next day. I've watched a how-to video from Robbie O'Brien 2 or 3 times just to make sure I'm doing this right. So I'm really nervous. But I know I could just buy some more, but I really don't want to have to. But anyway, I'm set up as much as I know how to do. I've got the binding taped together. I've got the waistline marked. So now I've got to make the sandwich. I got the waist marked on the spring steel. I'm just making sure that I've got the waist line marked on everything. So alright, so I got a couple of thermocouples. Alright, so this goes in the bender. It's going to take a little while to do this. I've got to wait for it to heat up, and then I'm going to slowly start cranking down on the waist, and then I'll curve down the upper and lower bouts. I'll come back to you when I'm ready. Alright, it's up to temp, so I'm just going to slowly crank this down a little bit. I've got my timer going, so about every 15-20 seconds I'll do a little bit more. Apparently this thing is not supposed to take more than 10 minutes, or I guess the bending process. It says if it takes any longer, you can dry your sides out too much and then crack them. So I really don't want that to happen on my binding. So I'm going to just keep doing this until it's bent all the way to the waist, about a half a turn every 15-20 seconds. And then once I get down to the waist, I'll come back to you. I got to put these in. Alright, let me get this done. If anything bad happens, I'll let you know. I'll be right back. I'm still working, but I'm a little concerned because it's saying 360. It's not like it's not controlling the temp. I got it in the right spot. I've got it set to 300, but it's at 360, so I don't know what the deal is there. Anyway, finish up and I'll come back. I'm at the very end, and I actually turned the power off because it was going up higher and higher, like 370. I don't know what the deal is with that. Maybe this thermocouple, but they say they test them all before they send them, so I don't know. So we turned the power off and let them cool down. And I didn't hear any cracking, so hopefully they did all right. All right, it's been quite some time and it's cooled down all the way. So let me get these off of here. They did bend all the way. It looks like I got some scorching on them. Probably because it took me too long. So they came out bent, so there's a little bit of scorching, which I hope will come out when I sand it, but all in all, it was a much easier process using the bending machine. So I'll probably set this up in my form just to keep it shape until I'm ready for it. So I'm gonna go do that, and now I gotta get ready to cut the binding channels. Alright, so I've got everything set up. I made several test cuts and figured out which bearing I needed to do the purfling channel. So I got to cut the purfling first, and then I'll go back and cut the channel for the binding. And I did a Washco slack on around the edges of the guitar on the top, And that should hopefully help some of these fuzzies, not form some of these fuzzies when I go to cut it, like it did when I flush cut the top to the back to the sides. Wish me luck. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this first channel. Alright, let's take a look at the first part. Well, it didn't really do much for the fuzzies. They're still there. See all those fuzzies right there. So anyway, we go ahead and finish the rest of the guitar and I'll get back to you. Alright, let's take a look at it. Looks pretty good. It's just a little bit proud of the side, but it was the only bearing I had that the next bearing size made it cut it too far in, so I had to stick with that one size. So I think it's gonna look pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish the the binding channel all the way around the top, and then I'm gonna take care of the back, and then I'll meet you when I'm done. What I found is, even after bending the binding, it still doesn't match up. I guess probably because I bent the sides by hand and I bent these with a mold. They just don't match up right, so I'm having to make some minor corrections with the bending iron to make it bend around that waist. But the other thing I noticed is the bending is, it's cracked at the waist. I probably got too hot when I was bending it, because I did take probably longer than I needed to and probably didn't have enough moisture in there. So there's actually little cracks in it. Like this one's cracked, it's just not cracked all the way through. But I think pushing it up into that waist, it's gonna cover up that little crack, and then it'll be glued to it, and it'll be kind of repairing the crack as it's being installed. At least I hope so. So I'm gonna finish working on the binding here, and then I'll be ready to tape it up. All right, I think I'm ready to go, so here we go. I'm not going to probably talk too much. I'm going to try to remember what he did in the video. No stopping now. This is absolutely insane. Feels insane anyway. It's one of those moments where you ever going past the point of no return on something? No turning back. Gotta be done. Can't quit. Good grief, this is a little stress inducing. I'm really nervous about there being gaps right there. It wasn't really a straight cut. There. Good grief. Alright. I gotta start the next side. I gotta start the next side, and we'll go ahead and do that, and I'll come back with you whenever I get done. Alright, well, you see I've got it done. I'm sweating. I need like some air conditioning in this shop, so I'm start stressing out and start sweating. So the last thing I gotta do, I've got this rubber strap. I'm gonna wrap it around this guitar. I don't know how this is gonna work, but old Robbie did, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I don't know how this is gonna turn out, but oh my gosh, this is a job. I'm sweating. I'm sweating now. Alright, the last thing I'm gonna do, put a couple of clamps, one on the waist, pull that in a little bit, and one across the top here. There. I'm done for now. There you go. Is it going to be gappy? I have no idea. I can't see any gaps, but there's no telling what the waist is going to turn out like. You know, it was really kind of irritating that I had to do some minor bending around the waist area with the bending iron. I was so ready to go, came out here motivated, and then I couldn't get it to fit, and they were starting to crack. That really irritated me. So what I did was I put a little bit of super glue right at where it was cracking, held it, just to try to keep those fibers together. And I hope it worked out. I mean, I'm pretty relieved to be done with this top part, because with the binding there, or with the purfling, it's just a little more stressful. So the back should hopefully be a little bit easier since it's just binding. So let me let this dry. I'm gonna come back to you tomorrow, or maybe even later tonight. I'll see. So we can see how this turned out. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take all this tape off, being careful to pull it at an angle. Of course, the wash coated shellac that I put on top should help with the grain not pulling up. Let me go ahead and pull all this tape off, and then I'll come back to you. It's going to take a little bit. Last piece. Well, it's looking pretty rough. Pretty rough. I think I could have done a better job of getting the binding channels getting the binding more flush with the side. It feels like it's pretty far away from here. I bet you I'm gonna have some thin binding once I get done scraping it. Gap wise, I don't really see. I see maybe there's a gap right here. I won't know until I scrape it all the way down. And then if I do have gaps, how do I fill those? I'm not sure at this point. Alright, as you can see, I went ahead and just took care of the back binding. You already saw me do the top, so really I didn't think there was any point in doing that whole thing over again on video. It was easier without the purfling, I can't say that. The only really difficult part about the top, or sorry, about the back, is this joint at the top. You kind of have to do that joint on the fly. So, you know, I put the tape up to right here, and then I pulled the binding up, marked where it should be cut, nipped it, and then tried to file it straight with a file. And then I had to do that again on the other side and try to make that joint butt right up against each other. So that was a little hectic, but it's done. And I'll see you when I'm ready to take the tape off the back. All right, I'm working on the bindings today. Well, I've got them glued in. I've just got to scrape them flush. So I'm using a card scraper to go with the grain. And then I'm getting close across the grain and then finishing with a file with some tape wrapped around the top just to give it it doesn't scratch the guitar. So I've got to finish doing the top, and then I've got to do the back. And then I've got to work on the sides. So it's going to take me a little while, but I'm really starting to see how the binding looks. Really, honestly, I'm pleased more than I thought I would be with the top. There's no gaps anywhere except for right here. There's a really small couple of gaps. And I don't even know if I hold it up. I mean, there's no way you'll be able to see that. I can see it because I'm right up next to it. But it's in between the purfling and the binding. So, and the gap is just like a little blackish color, so it just makes it look like I guess the black of the purfling is just a little bit thicker. I'm just gonna have to be happy with the fact that, you know, there's no gaps anywhere except for right here. Let me get this binding job done. Sorry, the scraping of the binding done, and then I'll come back to you for some final thoughts on this video before we move on to the neck. Well, I can't believe it, but I finally got the binding. This step took quite a while, just getting to this point. Trying to show you in the screen here. It looks pretty cool with the light colored flame maple against the Indian rosewood. And I didn't do too bad of a job with the joints here, I guess. Don't look too bad, honestly. You know, some other spots of binding, you know, I read about binding being thin in some spots from beginners who are scraping binding. I think more of my problem had to do with just because I bent the sides by hand, and then I bent the bindings in a mold or in a form. So there was just minor small differences and undulations in the curves, and they just didn't match up perfectly. For my first time, you know, I'm happy. All right, I'm really happy. This is a very awesome step to get done with, because now I get to go on to the neck. I'm finally done with the construction on the body. Of course, I'll have to cut the neck pocket here, which is going to be another stressful step. But there are a few things I need for the neck. I may need some shaping tools for the neck. I don't really know what I need at this point, so I've got to watch all those videos from Robbie. But anyway, I'm so glad you kept up with me so far, and thanks for being patient. You know, it's taking me a while to get this point out. So honestly, during this, I actually got COVID, which is another reason why it took so long to get the binding done, because I was sick, and I just was laying around on the couch. I didn't feel like getting up. I had a killer headache, and I was just tired and fatigued, and I'm just coming out of it. So I've been out of work for 2 weeks. They won't let me go back until I get a negative test. But that's besides the point. All right, this is just another reason it's taking me a little bit longer. But anyway, I'm happy. Although I will have something that has to do with the top I'll have to deal with. So it's not perfectly straight across. There's an angle there, so the neck's gonna be, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to deal with that when I get there, I guess. Thanks for watching. I'm so glad you stuck around to the end, and I guess I'll see you in the next part. Bye.